Hello everyone, Takuya here, and welcome back to the History of Everything podcast YouTube channel. My God, guys, this past week has been absolutely insane. Thank you one and all who have subscribed to my channel. Thank you who have watched my previous videos on this series that I did not expect to blow up to the degree that it did, where we go and analyze Queen Cleopatra on Netflix. But I mean, as you can probably easily tell here, it's done phenomenally well in comparison to some of the other stuff that I've been producing. But you know what? Because this is what you guys want to see, I figured that we should go ahead and do something that not nearly as many people are talking about. Everyone has been talking about the controversy that has been going on here with Queen Cleopatra, but no one is really remembering that this is actually the second series. There was a series before this. The first of the African Queen series was put out by Netflix is this one, Njinga or Jinga. There's actually a number of different ways that you could pronounce the name and also hundreds of different variations apparently of how the name is spelled. So it's very hard to lay down exactly what it is that this would be called. But in comparison to Queen Cleopatra, this is an actual story of a African queen. Of course, since we're talking about Netflix, using the term actual is also a term that is going to be up for debate because it's Netflix. As you can see, there's already been a couple of videos that are made that talk about specifically her, but the majority of people are focusing on things with Cleopatra. So I figured, why not go back? Why not look at this original? And why not talk about the first series and look and analyze and see what they got wrong and right about a real African queen? We will do the first episode, but naturally, just as we did with the other series, we're going to start with the trailer here, and from the very beginning, just look and see how this whole thing is presented, because oh wow, hey, from the beginning, 6,000 upvotes and 19,000 downvotes. I don't remember this thing being a big controversy, not like the whole thing with Cleopatra. I guess this one didn't get nearly as much attention, but simultaneously, the attention that it did get is not good. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and see what it is that we're going to be dealing with.
Born into an era of darkness, a warrior, a queen destined to lead.
It's actually interesting here from the very beginning how they're showing all these shots of, well, her moving around with a blade and fighting and showing specifically women that are equipped with spears. In many circumstances, like what they would have shown with Cleopatra, that would have been false, but unlike that scenario, we're talking about a case in which, from what I'm familiar with the history of Queen Njinga, she actually was trained in combat. She straight up was a warrior. That was a thing specifically for her, and she did at some points have a all-female bodyguard. So hey, from the very beginning, not too bad.
There are no slaves in my kingdom.
No, hold on. Netflix, is this why people are hating your series? Is this why people are going against you? You're having this African queen go and I don't know who it is that she's addressing right now, but she's saying there are no slaves in her kingdom? Really? That's not true. That is straight up not true. This individual here in history, Queen Njinga, is one of the key reasons as to why the slave trade in the area expanded. For anyone who is not familiar with her story at all, it is something that is quite complex. It is very complex. It is neither a good nor bad story. It is just all over the place because it's real, it's history, it's drama, it's all these different things that are occurring at the same time, and there really are no heroes and villains. She would wage a war against, I'm assuming they're talking to the Portuguese, because she was waging wars against the Portuguese, specifically with the Dutch as allies much later in her reign, because the Portuguese were trying to control the slave trade within the region that she was king of, which is like Angola, and the slave trade was one of the cornerstones of the kingdom's economy, so they didn't want the Portuguese to be interfering in the slave trade. They themselves wanted to be in control over the slave trade because it was one of the big points that would make the money that they would use to buy weapons and other stuff. So from the very beginning, Netflix, I don't know what the context of that line that she's saying is, but that doesn't sound good.
She fearlessly defended her kingdom against European power.
The king's under threat. The king.
I mean, yes, she did defend the kingdom against European power. Specifically, she fought the Portuguese and she teamed up with the Dutch in order to be able to do so, because the Dutch and the Portuguese were constantly fighting one another at this time in the late 1500s going into the 1600s, going into the early 1600s, because they were constantly competing over territory and trade rights in the area. Both were really small nations, but their trade empires were huge and they were competing over that.
King is always under threat.
Slavery threatened to decimate a continent.
Slavery threatened to decimate a continent. Not exactly. No, sort of. The continent was always fighting itself over slavery from the beginning. It's not that it threatened to decimate the continent. It already had been. For the majority of African kingdoms that were on the West Coast, slavery was one of the key reasons as to why the kingdoms were able to exist in the first place. Entire kingdoms were built on the backs of slavery. And that's not saying like, oh, they enslaved people to build their monuments or anything like that, because that did happen. But no, I mean that the economic cornerstone, the thing that supported the kingdoms, the thing that gave them the majority of their tax and trade revenue specifically came from slaves. And they would wage wars on other tribes in order to conquer them and turn them into slaves so that they could take over more territory and fuel their growth. That is what the slave trade meant in Africa. And that is what was going on for years. It just got significantly greater as Europeans became involved because now there was greater demand.
We're a people born running from extinction.
What is this? Little combat move, little combat, sneaky little stab. Wait, hold on, I gotta go back to that. I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of, in comparison to taking on a European power, just like fully with like sword and shield or whatever from across the field. It's, no, I'm going to jump up from the tall grass where I was hiding. I'm going to stab you in the neck. Seems significantly smarter, so I'll grant him that.
Rising to become a beacon of light for her people.
I have nothing to lose.
I have nothing to lose. Okay. They're framing her, again, in a very, very powerful stance, which, to be fair, Njinga, throughout history, is regarded as one of the great African leaders. She is a very complex figure. Again, as we said from the beginning, she did a lot of things that were very questionable or outright evil, but she simultaneously did incredible things for her kingdom. Nothing in history is ever black or white, not to use the pun here when talking about things with Queen Cleopatra and racial aspects. Everything is significantly more gray, and people will do insane things for power and utilize that in ways that are the best for them or whatever idea or belief that they have.
Which makes me dangerous.
What do you want?
Kind of power that will make a difference in my people's lives.
The kind of, again, they're framing her as a hero, which I know that that's the whole point of this. The point of African Queens on Netflix, the idea of it is specifically to talk about big important figures in African history in order to prop them up as heroes, individuals to aspire to be and to look up to. And she was powerful, don't get me wrong, but from the very beginning, I'm having some deep concerns that this series is going to be one that, again, just like Queen Cleopatra, is filled with melodrama and lines that are put in place that are not historical at all, but they're said specifically in order to give her these powerful moments that people can be like, oh man, she was a badass. We're going to look back on that positively, if that makes sense.
Let's leave these new foreigners in no doubt who I am.
Such a power move. It's such a boss move.
Okay, did I not just say power, boss, the moves? Yeah, did I not just say this? Witness the greatest.
Njinga was a mother of a nation.
Story never told.
But she loved her country. And for that, she made great sacrifices.
Oh, sacrifice. Oh, yeah, no, there's a lot that she ended up sacrificing. She sacrificed her people. She sacrificed a bunch of slaves. She sacrificed children. There's a lot of stuff that goes into her story that I'm not sure if Netflix is even going to touch upon. We will get into that once it goes into the actual series, but I think there was at one point, and I could be wrong on this, I could be wrong, mind you, but I believe there's a whole point where in order to secure an alliance, she had to kill a child, like commit infanticide and use its blood in order to make oil for like some kind of ritual. There's a lot of different cultural and fetishist beliefs that go into different parts of Africa, and that we're talking about things in very, very broad terms here, but that I believe was done in order to be able to secure an alliance with another tribe that had been a longtime enemy of her. If it goes into that story, we will get into that, but again, very complex figure that I'm not seeing any of that real complexity yet. We're just seeing here big hero girl boss moments so far.
Njinga was the only African leader to be recognized by European rulers in power as a female king. That
is actually the case. She was powerful and she did deeply impress those that she came across. Portuguese missionaries who would write about her would write in horror at times, but also simultaneously very impressed at what she was capable of doing.
I think of her as probably one of the greatest women warriors and women leaders this world has ever seen.
Considering the dearth of available women warriors and leaders, like combined, like you can have, there's been female warriors, then been female leaders, but to have that combined at the same time, there are significantly fewer, and there were already few of either one of those in the first place. So to say that she is the greatest is high praise, and to be honest, considering what I do know of her story, it is very impressive what she was capable of doing, and as she was trained. I actually like this shot. From the histories, we know that Queen Njinga was specifically trained in the use of the axe. Like that was her weapon of choice. That's what she was raised upon, was the axe. So we know she was a warrior. We know that she physically fought. We know these things, which gives me some degree of hope.
Njinga está presente.
All hail Queen Njinga!
And I guess that's the end of the trailer that we have here. Again, all of this is praise. You can see how people are like crying, talking about how amazing she is. And for a documentary, that just feels kind of weird. Again, because of the lines that we've already seen in this, I cannot help but feel that the series is going to be one that is going to be filled with melodrama and simultaneously more praise and not even critique. Critique doesn't necessarily matter as much here, but less realistic talking about the events that took place, more so looking at them as praiseworthy actions versus analyzing just what happened and why. From the beginning, considering what I know about the history, I have better hopes for this than I did for Queen Cleopatra, but simultaneously there are lines that really do worry me. Like in the beginning where it's talking about, oh, she's fighting for her people, and it has the line in here about, oh, there are no slaves in this country. That's not true. That is an outright falsity, and I don't really know if Netflix is going to go in and talk about her immense contributions to the slave trade. Not how she affected it, her contributions. She grew it. She expanded it into other kingdoms, specifically to fuel her own power and growth. But hey, if that is something that you would like to see, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because this is the next series that we're going to be going into. I want to see your comments in the comment section below, offering suggestions of other things that we should do next. My plan is, what I'm going to do, just so you don't leave the video immediately right now, what I am going to do, so y'all don't just like immediately leave off the video right now as I'm talking about it, is that my plan after doing this series is that I want to create some genuine history videos, just like I was doing before, on some real stories of African queens and tell their history. Because if Jada Pinkett Smith and others want to create all these docudramas that keep on obfuscating so many facts of history and screwing things around, that's not good. And it's going to give people a warped sense of history, either of self-importance or of just outright falsities that lead them to view others with distrust. So what I would like to do is to tell the real story of some of these people and the things that they did. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. I ask that you support me in that endeavor, and I thank each and every one of you who watches, not only to see me take things apart, but simultaneously because there are so many people out there who want to learn about things. And this is what I really enjoy. I love this stuff. So thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.